a common calling where our temples praise one. I believe in the word of wonder and a kingdom for the saved.
Larry Pollock here with Luke Carroll and Hello Trevino. Leo's not going to make it today. Today, we have a subject to talk about, which is coaches, trainers, and gurus, and how to determine, who's qualified and who you should hire or not hire, and basically all the different qualifications that go into it. Before we get into that, I want to do some real quick Arnold updates. And so I saw an interesting thing on Instagram. I'm going to pull it up right now. Instagram. Shit. Let me see. The newest post for Martin. There we go. Martin just posted this update, and that quad looks pretty crazy, and his condition looks pretty like he's going to come in right on, like I expected. And he's posted a little bit of training as well, and this is an interesting clip. This is he's doing a hack squat with a reverse band and knee wraps. That's cheating, this, that, and the other. But I actually do the exact same thing because it saves my knees. So I think it's a smart way to train. You can overload your quads and not wreck your knees in the process.
Smart training is always the way you want to go.
Yeah, people say don't use knee wraps. I disagree with that.
Yeah, I use knee wraps as well. I mean, it can be argued for some exercises you don't need it or warm-up sets, but if you go to the heavy sets, the type of poundages we put on, I think knee wraps is the way to go.
Yep.
I don't really use.
No, I know she's using. I think this is called.
I think on heavy sets
sleeves, right?
is a good idea. Sleeves, yeah. I mean, whatever you prefer.
I feel like if you're
that he's using
wrapping wraps correctly, man, you can really increase your weight substantially with them.
Depending on how tight you go.
Yeah.
You know what?
I don't wrap mine so tight because I'm lazy. Like I don't want to pull them on and off all the time. So I kind of find the right type of wrap where I can kind of keep them on.
Oh, really? Okay. You just keep it on throughout the workout.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it honestly, I have really big calves. It's hard to pull them up over the calves. And then if I find some that are big enough to pull over my calves, I feel like they're not tight enough.
You're talking about sleeves or wraps?
Sleeves.
Yeah.
That's why I switched to wraps. It's just
easier.
I
got you. Yeah, I have really tiny knees, and I have the same issue. I'll have like most of my sleeves are they're so big to fit my quad and calf that I have a lot of bagginess in the middle. But I still kind of prefer them just because of the speed that I can train with them. If I need to pull them up and straighten them out. The 2-ply ones, I think, really are probably the best for bodybuilding. But, I started using neoprene when I owned Iron Rebel. They had like a 7 mil that was like the softer one. And
it's actually funny. That was the one I preferred to use.
The Iron Rebel one?
Yeah. That was the one I used.
I know they were fantastic sleeves. And then I started really liking them. And then we made a 2-ply that was like the elastic. And I think I technically like those better, but when I was shooting a lot of content, I just started really needing to use the 7 mil ones because they were like our bread and butter for sales. And then I just started really like gravitating toward them because I liked them. And now like my current sponsor doesn't have any 2-ply, so I'm kind of stuck with the
Right.
I'm happy with them anyways. So
Yeah.
I honestly go either way. I think a 3-ply would be a little too thick. I think that would just give too much benefit.
And also, I feel like the thicker they get so stiff. Like it's even harder to get
they
them
made
on.
some for powerlifting that were like ultra stiff, and I tried those, and it's almost those are almost like having a wrap on. You had to like pull them on with like vice grips. It was so tight.
Right.
And then those are good for powerlifting, but I think that for bodybuilding, you're doing more reps. Like if you're doing a single rep max, I think an extreme tight wrap, or like there's I would say there's 2 different levels of bodybuilding, of like wraps. One is like a bodybuilding wrap, and then one is like an open powerlifting wrap thickness.
Whoa.
So
My phone just flipped off.
I think there's definitely application in both. I used wraps for years. I just kind of have gotten used to the sleeves, keeps the warmth in my knees, and then it gives enough cushion where I feel like the proprioceptivity of my knees benefits from it. So
Right.
but Larry likes going, on his heaviest sets, he likes doing wraps. So I think it's just kind of a personal preference. Whatever you came up doing is probably what you gravitate to.
I use a double ply.
I think so too.
I use a double ply sleeve, the ones you were talking about with the elastic, and I think those are the best. And I use those like almost like through my whole leg workout. Other than like maybe the first warm-up set, but after that I put those on, and I just keep those on. Yeah. But then when I get to my heavy sets, I wrap on top of those because my left knee is just destroyed. Yeah. And without it, I would just I would be crippled. I would for sure not be able to train legs. But if I wrap my leg, and the heavier I go, the tighter I go. So
that makes sense. I mean, I also had
really heavy set. I'll tighten up the wrap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also had knee surgery last year, so I can relate. I mean, if you have some damage to the knees, you need the support, you say, you shouldn't. I mean, I'm actually trying to not do so much support. I was just thinking right now, maybe it would be good to go back to the neoprene for the warmth, like you said, because I want to also have my knee to stabilize, especially after the surgery, to kind of learn again to stabilize. I feel like
you may take some of the stability that your body does out of it. If you go extremely tight with a wrap, you're kind of relying on the stability from the wrap and not so much your ligaments in your
What do you think about the neoprene? Doesn't it also stabilize a bit?
Yeah, it definitely, the lighter 7 mil, it's probably the lightest of the wraps, but it's still pretty substantial on how tight that it is, especially if you size down where you have to roll them down and then really pull them up over your calves and then you roll them up over your quad. Then you get a substantial amount of proprioceptivity of tightness from that. And then I think that it's just probably mostly mental, but definitely I feel like when I'm pushing those, heavy leg press, heavy hack squats, I get some definite support out of that.
Yeah. I think also that's where, you can really get an injury if you train heavy and the stability is not quite there. It's where's the limit? We always push to the limit, but sometimes the muscle is stronger than the joint and there can be a little instability. Yeah. And that's, so I'm what I'm doing right now, because I had 2 knee procedures last year, is I feel like I'm ready to load, but I'm not right there where I can go back to my old weights.
You might have mentioned it before, but did you actually specifically injure your knee doing something, or was it just kind of a repetitive over time?
It was repetitive. So, it was a few things. So basically my cartilage was worn down just from training. I also had a fall in 2019 where I actually broke a bone in my knee, and that has helped accelerate just the deterioration of the knee. I had 2 bone cysts, pretty large. One was like 2.5 centimeters, like what do you say?
Diameter.
Yeah,
Across.
diameter.
And
Yeah,
that was in
exactly.
your patella or in like one of your.
It was sitting right on the side of the kneecap, on the
Okay.
top, on the
Wow.
top. So like when I bent my knee, it was sitting right there. So
Yeah. And it was
bending
in the bone?
it was sitting on the bone. And
Oh,
then I
okay. So
had
like a
another
cyst.
one
It was like a
that's
cyst.
yeah, a cyst, a big cyst, and the
Got
other
it.
one was sitting on the inner meniscus.
Mm.
So they had to cut a little bit of my meniscus off to get that off.
Wow.
And then they just cleaned up because I had so many bone spurs, and kind of like behind my kneecap, I had like sort of gravel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so smooth, the joint now, but it didn't repair the cartilage loss. So in February, I had the arthroscopic surgery. And then in September, I went to a new treatment that they have in Germany. They primarily do it in Europe now. It's like a cartilage induction. So they inject a type of collagen that acts like a scaffold.
And then your body builds
The
collagen.
bot, yeah,
builds
so it's like a
tissue.
fertilizer. So your own cartilage grows into this collagen scaffold,
Yeah.
and it really works. Like
The future for like joint regeneration is really exciting because I've been reading a lot of stuff I've been getting on Instagram lately is talking about how they're not even having to do surgery. They have like certain peptides and stuff now outside of like the ones that we know of, like stuff that's really like just coming to the like research now, that they're like able to regenerate cartilage at like, you know, a superhuman level. So we're kind of like over the next probably 10 years, people are going to start needing those knee replacements and a lot of those like things a lot less to instead of you know.
I agree. I saw that just in China they have invented some type of well, it's basically like they're using their own body to repair, and that's like what they're doing more and more in regenerative therapies. So they figured out to take out some specific cells and prime them to basically like teach them and say, you got to go in and you got to repair this cartilage.
Oh, nice.
I mean, obviously it's not on the market yet. It's something they just invented, but in a matter of, I hope, 5 years, I can also get some of that.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of it's funny. I have several clients that have had hip replacement and stuff like that, knee replacements and stuff. It's crazy how often, and even like young, like people will be in their like 30s and 40s and get like a hip replacement or something.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, that's my good hip now, because it was like a genetic reason, like their ball and socket wasn't like formed correctly, and they were getting like bone spur or like and it's just a lot of pain. So when they go in there and they like cut off the femur and they just put a new socket on there and put a new ball in it, like the muscles can just all heal around it, and they can have like a better, you know, better than what they grew originally. So
but you know what the bad thing is, like often, like you said, it becomes their good hip or good knee, but then the other one, often when you get one knee replacement, the other one gets worse because you go through a period where you cannot use that knee you had the replacement, you know, like you have to like, well, you will compensate and lean to the other side.
Oh, right? Yeah, you put a lot of extra
so
load on the other side.
Usually you will have like 2 bad knees and one is worse than the other, but in that period where this one is healing, you put a lot of strain on the other one, and usually you will end up at some point needing another.
Yeah, most people I've talked to have had to get double hip replacement or double knee. When they do one, they end up doing the other.
I'm just like, I want to keep my own, like whatever regenerative I have to do. Like I've been doing all the peptides. I've been going to Germany for this collagen scaffold, and whatever I have to do, I'm like, I'm not getting any hip or knee replacements if I can help it.
Didn't Jose Raymond get like a hip replacement?
Yeah, he did.
Several years ago. He was pretty young when he did it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. It's interesting.
My father had double knee replacement, and he did it both knees at the same time, which
Wow.
I think that was really not smart.
That's tough.
That literally it ruined him.
Really?
After that surgery,
Oh.
he just changed. He was a different person, and
Oh.
he passed within 10 years of that. But
Wow.
he went downhill because it was just too much surgery at his age. He was already in his 70s.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
he made another 10 years, but he had
Even
all kinds
that's
of
a
problems after that.
bad call of the doctors, honestly. Why would you have a 70 or something man go through that extensive surgery?
He went to the VA and they just he needed both knees done. He just thought he was tough, and he's an old World War II guy, and he's like, yeah, I'll just do them both.
Wow.
Right.
And he was never the same after that. And so I'm doing everything I can to avoid that. And actually, I had some nerve damage from a SI nerve joint in my right side, and that caused my right outer sweep of my quad to atrophy. Initially, when it happened, it was a little bit numb, and then the numbness went away. But it's my left leg is stronger than my right leg, and over the years, even though I like when I'm squatting or leg pressing, I can't feel the difference, but my left knee has gotten worse because I think it's taking like the brunt of the like you said, it's compensating for the right side.
Mm-hmm.
So my right knee is fine. My left knee is like tore up. And they've done MRI on my left knee, and the technician said, I've never seen a knee look like that. Like, it's just everything's torn up in there. So if I do any kind of squats or anything with any kind of weight, I feel my knee. But as soon as I put that wrap on, I don't feel anything. And not only that, but after I train with the wrap, my knee is actually better for a few days. There's a thing called flossing. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where they actually take these rubber bands. They're thick bands that it looks like a knee wrap, but it's rubber, and they put it around the joint, especially around the knee joint. And then you'll do like squat movements and other leg movements with the thing on. And what it does is it pushes the fluid out of your knee. And when I do train legs with the knee wraps, it does the same thing. It pushes the extra fluid out of my knee.
Interesting.
And my knee is actually like way better after I train for several days.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I don't wrap my knees, first of all, there's no way I could have been training all these years, and I would have had knee replacements for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way. My knees would have been destroyed from all the heavy weight. And if you look at all the top bodybuilders with, like Ronnie Coleman, Hottie, Martin, they all wrap their knees when they go heavy. There's a reason for that.
I think it's a responsible thing to do. I mean, maybe if you have knee wraps that really support you well, but it's a lot of weight some of these guys are pushing. And I mean, when I was like in my prime, I could also push like 10, 12 plates on each side of the leg press. I mean, that's a lot of strain on the knee.
Yeah. I think if you have a certain level, like the people you just mentioned are extremely hard trainers and they're expert level people that are training at an expert level. I think that if you're at a lower level, you probably definitely should use just sleeves, because you're going to artificially increase your squat to a level where you're, maybe you're doing like hack squat where you're able to do like 2 or 3 extra plates on top of what you should be doing or what you would be doing without that. So I don't know if that's necessarily like something you should just jump straight to, by artificially increasing your strength with using wraps. So I definitely have used them before. I support people using them, but I think that it's like, you got to learn to walk before you can run.
For sure.
But I want to touch on what Larry said about the band. I use a band, whenever I hack squat, but some people just get outrageous with it. Some people use like a 250-pound band Like literally, Larry has like the heaviest hack squat ever. I could probably hack squat 10 plates if I used the band that some people use on his hack squat. But the band that I use is like a 75-pound band, and I can do like 7 plates on it. So sometimes it's a bit ridiculous for people just to add. Like, I think that with especially the hack squat that Martin was using, that's a Cybex hack squat. It's really heavy at the bottom. Like when you change the direction at the very bottom, it's extremely heavy. So yeah, using some band, saving your knees and getting out of the hole is definitely beneficial. But people using a band just to put on an extra 4 plates is quite ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, on that new Icarian squat machine that I got, the thing is super heavy, to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's got to weigh over 100 pounds.
The sled, yeah,
and just the movement, the sled weighs over 100 pounds,
definitely.
And just the movement, it was hurting my knees, just with the sled. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I put a reverse band on there, and just to offset some of the weight of that sled and take some of the pressure off the bottom, like I didn't feel anything in my knees.
Mm-hmm. But it has
way
a lot to do with like every machine is different. Is it heavy at the bottom, mid, top? Like you gotta know that.
Yeah,
right. Well, this one gets
we would be able to feel it, but maybe beginners wouldn't be able to feel it. But
I think it's the same weight all the way through. But what happens is as you go deeper, your leverage is worse, and and it's just more strain on the knee. And the band just takes some of the weight off at the very bottom of the lift, which is where it basically allows you to go deeper without hurting your knee.
Yeah, but also it helps a lot.
I found it works great.
Yeah, if you have any type of knee injury, I mean, for me, it's like I can train really well, but what I feel like doesn't work for me is like if I have a long pause at the bottom, like you say, oh, you should pause like 3, 4, 5 seconds. It's just like the type of continuous pressure hurts my knee. So for me, it's better. I can go slow down, but I have to get out of the hole right away. Yeah. So if I were in a machine where it puts the most pressure at the bottom, I don't know if I could get out of the hole. And not with pain either.
Well, with a reverse band and a knee wrap, you would be able to do it and you wouldn't feel your knees.
That's actually a good idea, and I'm gonna kind of keep that in mind. Like I haven't encountered machines that I couldn't do yet. I mean, even yesterday I was so proud I could do like one-legged squat on the hack squat machine. Where you put the foot. I put it like high up on the plate because I can't push my knee too much over my over the toe, and then the other one I kind of put behind. Mm-hmm. And I haven't been able to do that for probably 3 years.
That puts a lot of load in the knee, but I feel like that is a lot of adductor work doing that unilateral stuff.
Well, I was focusing on doing more hamstring and glute on that one. So I had my foot like the tip of my toe was a little bit off the plate. Yeah.
What was the brand of the machine you were using?
Oh.
I
don't remember.
We know which ones we like. Like if I see like a Body Masters or a Cybex.
It was the one where you just have the pad in the back. The low one,
like seated hack squat kind of.
Yes, exactly. That one. Yeah, I don't remember the brand, but it was. I have a lot of like with knee issues. The angle of the plate has to be right. There's just some hack squats I can walk into and I can be like, no, I can't do it.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine actually just designed a like a pad that you can actually stick on a hack squat. It has like magnets, and it like you can change the angle if it doesn't like change. You can actually like stick it on and change the angle so you're like more quads. Or if you're like a short person, it can like elevate the platform, because sometimes like people young or like smaller girls have a hard time even reaching the shoulder pads to reach all the way down. They have to like get up on their toes to unlock it and then sit down.
Yeah.
Short girls, like girls that are like 5'5", 5'6", have a hard time getting into a lot of the hack squats.
That's super cool. I also find that if I put like a foam roller in my back in the hack squat,
Gives you
that's
more.
so much better for my knees.
Mm.
Like because I'm more like straight up.
Yeah.
So there's like
What's going on with Hadi?
there's ways around it. Yeah, let's get back to the topic here.
What's he
So
squatting?
Hadi's in the States.
4, 5, 6 plates.
He's squatting on a Smith machine with a bunch of weight, and you can see he's got knee wraps on. But he's posted some updates recently that are pretty impressive. I don't see him on his Instagram, but I did see some updates posted.
He posted on Facebook, right? Or
yeah, I think this is old right here.
Yeah, I think that's older.
Yeah, we saw this like a few weeks ago. But he did post a thing where he was somewhere doing a T-bar row with like really heavy weights. So apparently he's in the States. But
I saw that too. Yeah, I saw like.
But he's in some sort of like.
Yeah, he's secret. Like somebody posted where he was in the gym, and they say, "Can anyone name this gym?"
Yeah, it's some kind of hiding because apparently he I don't know if this is true or not, but they're saying that the people from Iran want to get him or something. But I'm not sure if that's
I saw that thing from Ian Kamali on with Dave Palumbo, and I mean, if he's right, it sounds pretty bad for Hadi right now.
I'm just leave the guy alone, man. Just let him do his bodybuilding.
I mean, I think that he brought it on himself is the thing, though. I mean, yeah, leave the guy alone, let him do it himself, but he should have just not talked about politics. He should have just been a bodybuilder and not gotten into like the political side of it. And like,
yeah, you know what? I didn't know the things that he said.
Yeah,
because it's in Farsi and we don't read Farsi, but apparently the Iranian people that he said it to, they knew.
Yeah,
and he said some things that pissed some people off. So
yeah,
he should have just kept his mouth shut.
We're bodybuilders. We're not politicians. We should just Or if you're gonna do that, I mean, like, you know, I guess just kind of roll with the punches. Then, you know, like it's gonna be part of your thing. You know, like Steve Kuklo is super into doing politics. He's super behind Trump. He went to the White House. He met Trump, and he's super proud of it. You know, people talk shit to him. He's just like, yeah, that's part of my thing. So, you know, but now it seems like Hadi's like, oh, I'm going to shut off my Instagram because people are mad at me. I'm going to, you know, do this and that. So I think that if you're going to, you know, dance in that arena, you need to be ready for what's going to come.
Right. I mean, I'm super anti-Trump. I post every day about shit Trump is doing or how he's destroying the world. And I get mixed reactions. Like some people are like, yo, you know, they agree. And other people, they try to convince me to become on the Trump side and why this and that. And I'm like, you know, I don't care. I have my opinion, you know, like I stand up for it. So, but I'm also not a competitive bodybuilder anymore. Like I'm just coach, civilian.
All right, let's get into the actual topic that we're discussing, which was trainers, coaches, and gurus. Yeah. And one of the reasons that I decided to talk about this recently, well, actually back in November, I posted an ad for trainers in something called Indeed. And I specifically put in the ad experience, sort of qualifications were experience, valid certification, current certification, insurance, so forth. I had like 300 applications in 2 weeks. 99% of the applications, they had no experience, no certification, no nothing. It didn't matter. People, even they were even calling me, and I'm like, okay, do you have a certification? You know, have you trained people? No, but I'll learn. So what does this tell me? They just want money. They need a job. They don't care that they're not qualified or anything. So out of all those applications, I ended up narrowing it down to about 10 that actually had their certifications and insurance. I interviewed those 10 people, and out of them, I chose 2. Both of them told me that they had worked as trainers in gyms currently, and they had experience. Both lied. I learned very quickly that neither one of them had any experience. They had a certification that they had gotten online. One of the guys never lifted weights. He did calisthenics, and he had at some time in his life did some kind of boxing training. But he was going to train people to lift weights. Even after watching me train multiple people, they didn't know what they were doing because they had no experience. And I had to get rid of both of them, of course, because they were just completely unqualified. So it really pissed me off because, I said to the one guy, I said, why do you want to be a trainer? And he said, well, I'm into fitness. And I'm like, okay, but why do you want to train other people? And he had no answer for me. And basically he needed money. And it really bothers me because like I never took on a training client for money. Like they can't pay me enough because the amount of effort I got to put into it, they're not paying me enough to do it. So yeah, I need to get paid something, but if it was just for the money, there's a lot of other things that I could do for money. Especially a contest prep client, all the work that goes into it, the amount they're paying me is not enough. When it comes down to going to the show and just everything. Now, maybe I'm not charging enough. I don't know, but I try to stay reasonable with like what people can afford, which is usually not, a ton. But I kind of take it personally if I'm taking on a client that at least they're going to do well. And I don't mean a bodybuilder competing. I mean, even just a regular person wants to lose weight and get in shape. I expect them to get results. That's why we're doing it. We're not just like, I would not train myself just for no reason, just to go there into the gym and waste time. So when I'm training a client, I'm paying attention to their diet. I'm paying attention to their training, and we're doing it. There's a method for all the madness, and we're not just doing it to put in time. I take it personal that they actually get results. And I want them coming away saying, I got better and this happened and, we improved. But a lot of people out there, and especially with social media, are just full of it. They just make this shit up and they have no qualifications, no experience, and they're just taking people's money. And
they're trying to make a quick buck, but they think it's a easy thing. Just tell someone how many sets and point to a machine, and that's all that being a trainer is. But if you don't understand intensity or body mechanics or stuff like that, like you're not going to effectively train them.
Yeah, or how to work around different injuries, different body types, whether somebody has experience or not, when to increase the resistance or not, all of these things.
And a lot of that, it comes from experience. It doesn't come from reading like you said, they had certifications, but that's just like a textbook isn't going to give you how to train. You got to just you got to be in the trenches, learning stuff on your own.
I can tell you this. I have 4 certifications. And the only reason I have them is because at different places I worked over the years, they required me to have a certification. Mm-hmm. On all of those tests, I barely studied. What I mean by that is I opened the book, I read through it in probably an hour and took the test because I already knew everything that was in the book.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff I've just done on my own.
I think the books are pretty basic. I also have 2 certifications, but like I don't even want to like advertise it or write it anywhere because I'm like that's not what I stand for. Like, oh, I did a 6-week course, like I stand for that. I've been training for 35 years. I've been a pro for 23 years. I've been competing since 1998. I've been coaching people since 2003. That's what I stand for. It's not like that I
and you
read
have
some
the body to
books.
prove it. You know, it's not like you just have, oh, I've been a trainer for this long with like a dog shit body. Like you know, you have accolades of like, I've won pro shows. I've, you know, won the highest pro show really for you. So
The highest in the world twice.
Yeah.
You know, I was 12 years out of my career. I was top 5 in either the Olympia or Rising Phoenix.
So you have,
so
the accolades that you can say, like, you know, people come to you and probably just search you out just because they were fans of yours or because, you know, but that's really speaks to your experience.
And I wish that more people would look at what the coaches actually have achieved. You know, like, do they train themselves? Like, have they ever done a show? What's their experience? I mean, we're not talking about they do one show and then they're coach. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's what a lot of people do is they get a coach, they do one show and they run through and then they just copy and paste what their coach did, sell that to someone else. And then, you know, eventually they might get enough experience up to be like a decent coach. But I think a lot of them just get in and then they get over their head. They're like, oh, well, this guy has a problem. They're not losing fat like I did. And so now they're just like, well, I'll just increase the drugs. They don't really know what to do.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Coach to pull what levers when they need to pull them.
Exactly. A good coach is one that knows how to fix the problem. You know, like, do you suddenly stop burning fat 6 weeks out? You know, do you know something about cortisol? Do you know something about hormones for women? Do you know something about menopause or menstrual cycles, how that can affect? I mean, just writing a training plan or using ChatGPT to write a diet, that's not a coach. And honestly, nowadays, you can go on almost any fitness influencer's page. If they're an influencer, if they have a 6-pack, if they compete, they're all a coach. All of them. Like,
a pretty saturated market for
and
sure.
I think it's sad that some of these people, I've heard of like fitness coaches that have like 1,000 clients just because they're running their boot camps, they're running the 12 weeks transformation challenge, they're doing all this, and they have a lot of followers. You know, they have a nice little fitness body and they have a lot of followers, and they're just cashing in money, and everything is like cookie cutter plans. Like, they all get the same plan, right?
I think it was you. We were talking about it maybe the other week, and you were saying that you saw somebody's program. Maybe someone was coaching you, or someone was coaching someone else, and like pro level, and they had the exact same meal plan. They're like, "Oh yeah, I looked at one meal plan. It was literally a carbon copy of the other."
You're like, I've seen that lots of times.
Yeah,
you know.
So there was a Team Edge, was a thing that trained bikini competitors, and this woman was a fairly decent bikini competitor, and her husband was this big obese guy, and he wrote all the training plans for all the girls. And I saw 2 girls that were being trained with Team Edge. One was like 5'7" and 180 pounds. The other girl was like 5'5" and 130 pounds. They both had the exact same diet
plan.
Nothing at all close to each other in composition, but they had the exact same diet, same calories, same food, just to say, eat this.
When you called me yesterday and we were talking about this, I was thinking, and I was like, no, you could look up every single one of my clients. Nobody has the same meal plan as anyone else. Like, all my stuff is built from scratch. Like, people have, oh yeah, I can't eat this thing, or I can't get that kind of fruit or that kind of meat or whatever. Like, none of my clients have the exact same meal plan, and especially maybe some of the same food sources, but definitely not the same
macro
values.
Same as my clients.
Yeah.
And I listen to people like is that something you don't like? You know,
Yeah,
like
that too.
if you absolutely hate fish, why would I put it on the plan? Or if
Yeah.
they have allergies or digestion problems with some foods, you know, like I listen to all of that.
Yeah.
And
Well, when I was in my 20s, I went to Ed Cousins' boxing gym because my brother trained out of there, and he was a pretty good fighter back then. And Ed Cousins was a guy who trained Mike Weaver, who was a former heavyweight champion of the world, and he also had trained, I believe, Muhammad Ali at one point. He was an old boxing coach in an old gym in downtown LA, and I actually trained there for 3 years, and I was okay. What I mean by that is, I mean, I learned to throw right cross and a hook and jabs, and I sparred in the ring. And I did it, probably 3 or 4 times a week for 3 years. And, you know, the only reason I stopped doing it is because after the sparring sessions, sometimes I'd wake up the next day with like this massive like headache. And I just felt like this is brain damage. And I was going to college at the time. And I'm like, I can't be a retard. Because by the way, if you didn't know, like boxers, after they get hit in the head over and over again, they become retards. They're like vegetables.
right. Yeah.
And a lot of the kids in there were like, coming from the ghetto, and this was going to be their life. So they didn't have a brain anyways. But I'm like, I'm not going to get brain damage for this shit. But anyways, I still did it for 3 years. And could I teach someone how to hit a bag and spar? Yeah, I could. But I don't claim myself to be a boxing trainer because I don't think I'm that good at it. It's not what I've done my whole life. I did it for 3 years way back when. Yeah. And I still remember like how to do some of it, but I don't do it all the time. And I would not call myself a boxing trainer. And I told this trainer guy, I said, I know how to change the oil in my car. I know how to change a tire. I know how to change my battery. I know how to jumpstart a car, but I'm not an auto mechanic. And I would never tell somebody I'm an auto mechanic, because if I tried to do that, I'd probably ruin their car because I don't no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
But that's why we see so many athletes with metabolic damage, hormonal damage, Yeah. I'm like, look at like people, they want to look at like how the coaches' clients look like peak week or something, but talk to them maybe prior, talk to them about, did they have a rebound? How are their hormonal system 6 months later, because I've heard about many stories from clients how their coach just dropped them after the show. Like they just never got like any type of like how to wean off the hormones, or how to, not get, I mean, I know somebody who got into hospital because she ate so much sugar and crap and shit that she was hospitalized.
Jesus.
I mean, the coach has to be there to catch you in any moment. And it's so important. You cannot just drop them at the show. Like, oh, everything is done and we're finished.
Somebody the other day I was talking to, they were saying like, oh yeah, I think ChatGPT is basically going to like replace coaches and trainers. And I said, like, I could write a good program using ChatGPT, but like a newbie coming in and just saying like, give me a steroid cycle. Like they're not going to know the nuances of like how to guide ChatGPT to the right answers. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT is going to guide them to like doing some wrong stuff, like the wrong drugs together, the wrong dosages, the wrong macro, like if you don't know the right way with AI to like tell it where to go, it's going to like, you're going to start going down a path that's like, just.
And even, sometimes it's not even accurate, like it also has a disclaimer.
The nuance of like the stuff that we understand, like if someone's having an estrogenic, like they're getting like a pie face, or if they're gaining like a bunch of water weight or something like that, like we could specify, oh, okay, this person has like high estrogen because they have this, what would you recommend? And then it would know, okay, maybe these 10 different things is what you could do. But a new person isn't going to be able to understand how to give it the right information to get back the right information.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean,
like,
everything
it could be very powerful if you're like, you put in your specific things and you understand like what is going on. It could give you ideas of like, oh yeah, add in, you're having like worry about your heart, then yeah, add in like nattokinase, or add in like all these other things.
Yeah, I
like,
mean, you can use it as like, maybe there are things you're not thinking about yourself, like you say, this person has high cholesterol, this and this.
Yeah.
Name me some supplements. I mean, I'm using ChatGPT for this,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes even I have to double check. And I have Claude also, and then I take what ChatGPT says into Claude and say, do you agree with this? Because sometimes it can tell you some bullshit. I don't use it so much with coaching because I know the answer, but I'm, like I said in an earlier podcast, I'm trying to build some villas in Zanzibar, and I have absolutely no clue about what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm in the planning phase, and ChatGPT has lied to me over and over again.
That's what I'm saying about with health and fitness. So you could literally have it like telling you imaginary stuff.
Yeah.
That could take you down the wrong path. So it could replace some people. Like if you know what to ask it, it could give you the right answer. And if you know something is wrong, you can be like, no, you don't understand this. What I actually meant for you to tell me is how to, this, and this. So,
but you have to have the knowledge.
You have to have the knowledge. Like you can't just come in as like a 20-year-old and just think like, all right, I'm going to bodybuild professionally now because I have ChatGPT.
I'll say maybe you can do some basic stuff, like make me a training program for a beginner and it will do it. But that's not coaching. Like coaching is the feedback. Like the client will say, oh, I don't sleep good at night and this, and you're like, maybe it's maybe high cortisol. Mm-hmm. Or they give you some feedback on how they feel with the hormones, and you're like, we maybe gotta adjust this and this. We all
have experience with doing those things because we've had sleep apnea from our weight getting up too high, and we're like, oh, okay, well, you need to get a sleep study, or we need to start increasing your cardio just to like pull back your weight a little bit, maybe your insulin sensitivity, so we've done all these things at exhaustion years over years. So we understand like when something comes to us from a client, we understand like we've probably done that, or we have people we can talk to that have done it, that are like, oh yeah, I had a client, or I did this one time. So we have like a network also that we like pool our knowledge with.
And not just the facts, but I'll also mention the psychological support. Like not all coaches give that. I think it's important that you are there psychologically. Like any athlete comes to a point where they're dragging, they met the wall, they're maybe like have anxiety, or and we know how that feels because we've been in that spot ourselves.
You can validate them, but you can also say like, yeah, that's going to be part of it. You're going to have to just ride this out, and it's going to fucking suck. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be in pain. You're going to be hungry, but this is what you signed up for.
I think it's great with newbies that you can kind of say, because I had new people that is like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Is it wrong? Maybe I should stop. Maybe I should drop out of it. And I'm like, no. This is normal. It's completely normal.
Everyone gets that.
And this and this and this you can expect. And also with seasoned that have like, issues when they start getting stage anxiety and anxiety over, am I going to get in shape? Am I going to be good enough? Like I'm 4 weeks out. Am I where I need to be? And all those kind of thoughts. It's absolutely normal. And you can kind of give that support. But I think if you don't have the experience, that you don't know what's going on, because some people, they won't tell you. They'll just be like irritated and frustrated, and and you're kind of like, hey, I know what's going on with you. Just calm down,
You're hungry.
I was fortunate when I was young that I just happened to grow up in a place where there were a lot of professional bodybuilders under Weider contract. And basically the first bodybuilding gym that I went to at 13 years old, there was a whole bunch of pros in there. And there was Lee Haney, Gaspari was in there, Matt Mendenhall, Albert Beckles, Burl Fox, Dr. Squat, Fred Hatfield trained there. So right away I was training around all these pros. And as I got older, I actually trained with them. And then for my first show at 16, Mike Sable, who was a Mr. Universe, was my coach. And after that, I continued to train with pros over the years. I trained with Nasser. I lived with Mike Menser. He was my roommate. I trained with him for a year. I trained with Scott Mendelson powerlifting for 10 years straight. I was his number one training partner for 10 years. And I learned from all these different people. And I was, one of these new trainers, they asked me, so how should we learn this, that, and the other? Is there some videos we should watch, or, some course, something or other? And I'm like, no, this is something you have to be taught by somebody who knows. You can't watch a video. And I was thinking of an analogy. I think training is like sex. If you haven't done it and have experience, you're not going to be good at it. You can't watch porn videos and then all of a sudden, be a porn star. It doesn't work like that. If you're a virgin and you watch porn videos and then you think you're going to be a porn star, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. Well, training is the same way.
Probably going to do all the wrong things.
It's probably going to be pretty messed up anyways, at least. But training, it's not something you can read in a book. You have to experience it. I squatted 601 pounds at 20 years old in my first powerlifting competition. At 40 years old, I squatted 820 pounds. I can tell you that without having done that, I could not explain to you what it feels like to have 820 pounds on your back and how to do that. You don't know what that feels like. It feels like a car is on top of you and it's going to crush every bone in your body. And then you have to have the mental thing to how to deal with feeling that and not freak out and bail out of the lift because you feel like you're going to get crushed. How to move properly. So if you move wrong, you're not going to tip over and break something. You can't learn that. Even if I watched people do it in videos, that is not the same as being under the bar. It just isn't. And it's just repetition, years and years and years of doing it and training around other people who know how to do it. That's how you learn. And you can't get this from watching videos or reading books. Sure, do I see videos and get ideas? Yeah, but then I go and try it. I can tell you over the last 40 years, I've done probably every type of training program there is. Even if I disagreed with it, I tried it just to see what it would do. I've tried high volume, high reps, more sets, less sets, higher intensity, less intensity, powerlifting training, more different types of bodybuilding training. Every drug combination there is, I've tried it on myself multiple times. Different diet techniques. I've done keto, I've done high carbs, low carbs, and I've also done it with training clients. And
that's also passion, Larry. I don't know if you can be a good coach if you don't have passion. Like if you have passion as an athlete and you wanna explore, you wanna try all kind of like wraps and straps and training methods and training programs and this because you have an interest, you have a passion for it. So I don't know, like if you can really be a good coach if you don't have that type of passion.
All of these things I did because I was trying to improve myself.
Yeah,
I was obsessed about being better, being a better bodybuilder, being a better powerlifter at whatever I was training for at the time. So I was like researching and training with people. Look, I did a bunch of bodybuilding competitions, and after the last competition, when I did, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break from the bodybuilding because I just did like 3 competitions and it back to back. I want to do some powerlifting. So I looked up Scott Mendelson, who was the #1 bench presser in the world at the time. And it just so happens he lived 30 minutes away from me. I called him up on the phone, talked to him for 20 minutes. We hit it off right away. I was his training partner for 10 years.
Wow. I trained in his gym actually in the COVID days.
I trained in his house gym when we first started. He didn't even have a gym.
Cool.
He had a full on gym in his house, and that's where we trained.
Nice.
And the only reason I lasted 10 years because I was the only one that would show up all the time. Because everybody else would show up for a few weeks and then they'd bail because it was just too hard. But I was pretty consistent for 10 years straight. And the only reason I stopped training with him is we just had a falling out over some other stuff just because I can't deal with him as a person. Not as a coach, though, as a powerlifting coach, he's the best. I'll give him credit there.
Right.
And Luke and I were just watching something. Chris Duffin put something up on peptides. If you don't know who Chris Duffin is, Chris Duffin was one of the best elite powerlifters in the world. And he developed the Kabuki bar and all the Transformer bar and all this stuff. And he's trained a lot of top athletes from sports teams and God knows what. But he got really into peptides. And he got into peptides a long time ago. In 2015, I tore both my soleus on a leg press. And I'm like, who would I call? And I called Chris Duffin. Like from the hospital, I called him. I told him I'm in the hospital. This happened. And he was super cool. And he was the first one that gave me the BPC TB500 protocol. He told me BPC 157 TB500 and IGF-1LR3 was 250 micrograms of BPC and 250 of the TB500. And I don't remember how much IGF, but twice a day into my calves. And I did that after I got out of the hospital, and it worked. I was able to rehab my calves. It took about a full year, but I was gone from couldn't walk at all to being able to walk and train calves within 3 months. He was the first one. And lately there's been a lot of people putting out bull crap on the internet about all of a sudden peptides are all the rage. And people are putting out all this bull crap, saying that just making stuff up, saying different peptides, if you combine them, they'll destroy each other and all of this stuff. And it's just nonsense. These people are just making stuff up.
Well, they're using ChatGPT to look up these compounds and say oh, this is acidic, so it's going to destroy this and that. They're basically using research to come to a conclusion instead of doing what Chris Duffin did. Is he actually just mixed it, sent it to his lab, had it tested a month later and said okay, is this stuff actually in it? So he actually just did applied research instead of reading research, and then he found that you can mix a lot of these things. He says no, I don't necessarily like to, because I like to specify how much I want in it. And those are kind of pre-mixed, but just saying that it does destroy it is false. So
yeah, but
you gotta really use ChatGPT carefully, because the prompt is important.
Yeah.
Well, but anyways, I'll give him a shout out, because if I want to know something about peptides, he's the person I'm going to go to, because number one, he researches it. Number two, he's done it himself on himself and his clients for over a decade. So he has experience. It's not just he read it in a book somewhere. And that's a big difference. And he was a high level professional athlete who's had many, many, many injuries and was able to overcome all those injuries and still be one of the top powerlifters in the world.
Didn't he deadlift 800 pounds for a month, every day for a month? Is that what it was?
It was some crazy. No, it was a squat thing, and I think it was
he squatted 800 pounds every day for a month. What a savage!
Crazy.
Was it 800 or more? I thought it was 1,000.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I watched a video about it. I think he did it for both. I think he did once. He did it for deadlift, and then he also did it for the squat. So the guy is they call him the mad scientist, and that's what he is. He's always on the cutting edge of just what is the new technology, and he has people that are experts on his podcast too that are like even more knowledgeable than him. So he's searching for more knowledge, So he's a very good resource for our industry.
Yeah, and keep in mind he's a power lifter, but his knowledge still applies to bodybuilders as well, because basically training and recovery is training and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you're doing a different type of training, you still have to recover from it. And dealing with injuries is dealing with injuries. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, or playing football.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a real world actual experience. Plus, he's researching all the time. And, I do the same thing. Anytime I hear about a new supplement, I'm like Googling it and researching it and reading about it and trying to find stuff about it, because I'm still trying to learn stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say I'm an expert on peptides. I'm just barely learning peptides, to be honest with you. I've used TB500, BPC 157 long enough to have a pretty good understanding of those two. And GH I've used it long enough to I understand that pretty well. The other ones that are new, I'm just sort of learning them now, and I will not claim to be any kind of expert. I'm still trying to figure them out.
I mean, it's also like there's coming new all the time. Like right now, it's like we're in this peptide age. But I think key is that you should just never stop learning, no matter what. I mean, I really dislike these people that are kind of like know-it-all, No, you don't know it all. There's all the time you can get better, you can improve, you can learn something new. Like you said, new products are coming, new peptides are coming, new training methods are coming, and you have to keep just renewing yourself.
Yeah.
But even so, I've been messing with certain peptides for the last, few months. I won't say that I know everything about them. I'm still like learning about them. I'm still seeing how they actually work or don't work. This is all new stuff. So I would never claim to be an expert on any of it. I'm getting a pretty good understanding about the GLPs, which I personally have never used a GLP because I don't want to lose weight. But I've been using it with certain training clients, and mainly retatrutide. And it works pretty damn good for people that have problems, sticking to a diet. So that one I have experience through just my training clients. And I wouldn't say lots, but, I've had people using them for, probably on and off for a year now. So I've seen that people get pretty good results from that one as far as like being able to stay on a diet. And I'm talking about people that have problems being on a diet. And by the way, I don't think that you need that to get in contest shape. It's just
I definitely think I like using it now that it's specifically retatrutide with my clients, that I think that it makes it where you can give them less stimulants to suppress their appetite. It actually works better to stimulate fat loss than not using it.
I think it's more healthy also because stimulants go on the heart.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the other podcast. I think that it has a lot of benefits, and I haven't really seen too many drawbacks if you're using it correctly. So I personally am going to use it, on my next cut. I haven't really used it yet, just because I am trying to eat more food. I'm not trying to eat less. So,
but going back to like qualifications for, let's say, a trainer first, before we get into the gurus and stuff. If I'm looking for a trainer, number one, they better look like they actually train.
Yes.
If I see a trainer and they don't have any muscle on them, I don't care if they're the top bikini competitor in the world. If you look like an anorexic string bean, there's nothing there telling me that you know how to lift weights.
Yeah.
I had a girl come into my gym. This is like 10 years ago. And she told me she was 17 years old and she was an IFBB pro bikini competitor. She had turned pro the year before. she barely knew how to lift weights. She was just skinny genetically and looked like that.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't do anything.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's mostly what bikini is. It's a pretty face, nice bone structure, a boob job, and minimal.
Yeah, but I definitely wouldn't take
body
advice
building.
from her on how to do anything nutrition wise or training or any of that, because
Well, it's also age wise. I would say maybe like an older bikini competitor knows how to train for bikini.
no, again,
But
you're talking about people's
like
experience.
17, 17, you don't have any experience, where's that going to come from?
Well, I actually did, because I started training at 12
Damn.
with pro bodybuilders.
I'll say
So,
that's the fewest people start training at 12 and then with pros.
yeah, I started training at 12 with pro bodybuilders. So by the time I was 17, I already won competitions. And I wouldn't say I was like super knowledgeable, but I actually knew how to train. I had trained with enough pros that I knew how to do the movements correctly. I know how to do intensity, but I had been training hard for 5 years already. By the time I was 20, I had been training for 8 years, like with top level pros. So, I mean, that I wouldn't compare that to what I now of 40 years of training. That's a whole different thing. But the more time you've been doing this properly, and by the way, I want to say something. I trained incorrectly on my squats and deadlifts for the first 20 years of my training.
Wow.
I squatted 705 pounds, not squatting right. And the reason I did that is because I learned to squat from a bodybuilder, mainly Tom Platz, just copying what he did. I had huge quadriceps. I had underdeveloped glutes and hamstrings. And I always had sore knees the whole time. And then 20 years into it, I went and trained with powerlifters. And I went to train with this big powerlifter named Thad Coleman, who was a guy who squatted over 1,000 pounds. And he opened up my stance and shifted the ball lower and changed my positioning around. And in 1 year, my squat went from 705 to 820. And guess what? No pain in my knees. Just like that.
Technique.
It was just technique. And I didn't learn that, even though I had been training and I got strong doing the conventional regular bodybuilding squat. I got strong doing it. But
that's also why it's really good to train with a lot of people. Like I've always been like, if I had any opportunity to train with somebody like other pros or like somebody that were better than me, or I mean, I've trained with Milos, I've trained with Rolly Winkler, I've trained with Chris Cormier. I was trained 2 years by Charles Glass. I seeked a lot of people. I did a lot of training programs from Mountain Dog. I just kept searching, and I think that's really what makes you great. Is like you learn from a lot of people that have the knowledge, have the skills, and just keep experimenting on yourself and just it's basically you have a toolbox, right? And you keep throwing tools in the toolbox. Then there's something called SST. There's something called rest pause, superset, drop set, giant set. You just keep like throwing tools in the bag. And I think
but I didn't just watch something on a video and then tell people, oh yeah, I'll do this.
No, you worked with people live.
I worked with people live, and then I went and did it myself in training and in competition. So I proved to myself that it was correct, and my numbers didn't lie. My weights went up drastically. My best bench press ever was 420 pounds because I'm not built good for bench press. And then I went to Scott Mendelson, and in 1 year it went from 420 to 555. It was all technique. I just didn't know how to bench press properly. And I thought I did, but I really didn't. And then he changed my technique. And yeah, I probably got a little bit stronger that time, but it was 99% technique that changed it from over 100 pounds difference in my bench.
Yeah.
So again, you got to learn from the right people. And the people I learned from had a lot of experience. And do I see things in a YouTube video and like try that? Yeah, I will. I'll see like certain top athletes, doing something, and I'll try
But
it. But
you don't get the corrections. You can
right.
think you saw something, but really, like, I mean, so I work online and I have to send clients a lot of training videos, but then I check them and say, send me 4 training videos every Sunday or whatever, and they're doing something completely different. I'm like, that's not how I did it. But you need those corrections. You need that hands-on. Like, there's nothing that can beat hands-on. Like, of course you can learn something from videos or doing it over and over again, but you need the corrections.
Well, a lot of times what I see, if you go in any commercial gym anywhere in the country or the world, probably, you will see almost everybody in there doing everything wrong. Every movement is done incorrectly. The form sucks on everything. And you know why? Because one person in there who was fairly strong or well built or whatever did it that way, and everybody in the gym copies that person. So that person's doing it wrong, and everybody else does it the same way because that person did it.
And also another
thing,
Larry, in your gym, I'm sure when new people come in that you will show them how to do it. Like they'll get a tour or something.
They get a free intro to training, and that's one free training session where I just take them through some basic exercises and show them some basic technique.
But which gym does that? Which gym does that?
I do with every single member that signs up if they want to do it.
You do that. But if you go to any other commercial gym, like LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, whatever, you just buy your membership.
They get nothing.
It's all is geared towards sales. Just sell the membership, and they just start. And I always say, like, why the fuck would you start training bodybuilding and just go in there and pull in some machines? You wouldn't go to tennis and you're just gonna stand there and just. You need to learn how to do it properly, especially weights, because, correct lifting technique. Like, if you do wrong lifting technique, you can get an injury. It's like so obvious to me. If you lift a heavy object wrong, there's a big margin for error, like for something going really wrong. And I've heard it also. Many times you talk to people in the gym, it's like, oh, I was just out with a shoulder injury 3 months. Yeah, it could have been prevented if you just said, I want to join a gym. I want to learn it properly. I want to do correct technique. I'm going to hire a trainer. And then hopefully you're going to hire the right trainer because, as we all know, there are those trainers that just sit around looking in their phone, or they don't pay attention. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's a trainer or a coach. You got to be really careful in who you pick.
Yeah.
You know what the qualifications are for getting hired at a commercial gym for a trainer?
Have a pulse.
You breathe on a glass and fog appears, and you're a trainer. That's it. That's it. You walk in there and you tell them, I want to be a trainer. They will give you this multiple question test, and you have to pass 50% of it or some stupid thing. And it's like 50 questions of just basic nonsense. And if you take that thing, they give you their certification, and you're a trainer the next day. Yeah. So you have basically somebody who knows nothing. I've had people come to my gym that had NASM certifications. I had a girl came in. She has a NASM certification. She took the course at a college. She just finished it. I said to her, so let me ask you a question. You have the certification. How many times have you lifted weights in the gym? She goes, well, I never have. I'm like, so how do you know how to do exercise? She goes, well, I've been watching it online. And she wanted to be a trainer. She never lifted a weight in her life. And if she was going to a commercial gym, they would have hired her, and she would have been training clients the next day, knowing nothing.
I mean, eventually she would get experience, but I feel sorry for her first like 100 clients.
Eventually, when? How? She's training other people to do what she doesn't even know how to do.
Yeah.
How is she even going to learn that?
I mean, the best trainers, they have mentors, good
But
ones.
not in a commercial gym. And I'll tell you, this really pisses me off. It's all just money. There's people online all over the place. They just want money. They don't care. They're just going to steal your money. And if you're listening to this, they will steal your money and they do not give a shit.
No.
You get no results. You get injured. Whatever happens, they don't give a shit. They just want money. And that's it. And they have no morals, no fucking anything. It really pisses me off. I actually had these two trainers for a few weeks and I realized how bad they were. I fired both of them and I had to take over all their training clients. And now I'm retraining all their clients for the bullshit that they taught them wrong.
Oh my God.
And I'm mad at myself for actually letting them in. I will never do that again. I will never put an ad out for a trainer. Just never.
But also you believe that bullshit. That's one thing. I mean, I've had also really bad coaching experience with like hiring. I think I've only did it once. I hired a coach who said he trained all these clients and he was a top coach and he had these people in Europe and this and that. And he didn't know shit. And I looked like shit for my show, So it's like, it can be really expensive for you in the long run if you hire the wrong people.
Now, another thing I want to say, there's some people that, they're just genetically gifted. Okay. They're a mesomorph. They grow muscle easily and, they lift a certain kind of a way, but that doesn't make them a good trainer.
They might not know anything at all. Like
I've had
good genetics.
I've had two clients, specifically two clients that I trained myself and got them to be actually pretty good competitors, but they still didn't know what we did. Even after going through contest preps, competing and doing it, they did not know how to train other people. Like all the stuff we went through, they didn't know what, why, how, what I did with them to get them to where they were. And I know that because they were training other people doing completely different stuff. And the other thing is, you have to be able to look at people, and different people are different. You have different body types. You have mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph, and then combinations in between. Those are just like generalities. But people are not the same. So people are not going to respond the same as you do or the same as somebody else did. So one program might have worked for somebody, but it's not necessarily going to work for the next person. So you have to be able to look at that individual and say, okay, they have a slower metabolism, whatever their training situation is, their lifestyle situation, all these factors, and figure out, what do I do with this person? Because there is no cookie cutter program. You can't just like, oh, here's a diet, here's a training program. It all works. Now I do have some like basics, like I have a basic push-pull program that I use with all my brand new training clients. It's just a push-pull, chest, shoulders, triceps one day, back, biceps another way, legs on another day. And I use that with all of my clients because it's just like a real basic program to start. It's a starting point. However, I have a guy that just came in and he has problems with his back. So did I start him on a barbell squat? No, we started with a belt squat because I know he's got back issues. So I'm not going to put a barbell on his back. And I started, and in the first session, we started doing stuff like a reverse hyper and decompression bench to work on his back issues because he has that problem going on. So I know like right away, I'm not going to put him on a barbell squat because he's got that thing going on. So you have to be able to look at different people and say, okay, And then as you're training them, then the program will evolve depending on, you know, how they're progressing or whatever the situation is with that person.
And also be able to listen to the feedback.
Oh yeah,
you know,
for
like
sure.
what hurts, you know, did they have pain in the knees after training?
When I'm training somebody, I ask them after every set, how did that feel? How did you feel that? Or I'm correcting them. Oh, okay, your elbow flared on that bench press. That's why you got stuck. Or you're lifting your butt up. You're not arching properly. Whatever. You push out on your knees during the squat. There's just little cues I'm telling them. But then after they do it, even if it's good, I say, how did that feel? Because I want that feedback from them, but I also want them to think about, okay, the last set I did, it was messed up. And now this set was better because we did X, Y, Z, corrected their technique, and it felt better, which usually is what happens. So, yeah, I ask people every time I see them, how is your diet going? And they also, on my program, they're tracking their food. So I'm looking at it. Like they log all their foods in the app. So I'm looking there. They're actually following the diet. It's not just they're telling me, because, you know, people will lie about their food. And it's not that they're lying. Like if they're not logging their food, I guarantee you they're not following the nutrition program, because they just will skip meals, will just, you know, not eat everything, because that's what people do. You know, they get busy, they get lazy, whatever the situation is. And they're like, oh yeah, the diet's going fine, but they're not losing weight. Well, they're not eating the food, or they're not eating all the food, or they're eating two other things that are not on the plan. Something's going on there. So by having them log it, I can look at it. You know, I look at it pretty much like every time I see them. We'll have an in-person meeting, and I look at their diet and I see that they're logging their foods and they're actually eating the foods. And if they're not logging their foods, I get on their ass and I said, you need to log your foods, because you need to be on top of this. Because I know if they can't log their foods, which just is a click of a few buttons, then they're probably not eating the foods either. So especially for new people, like just logging things really helps them. It's staying compliant. They need that something to hold them accountable. Because if there's nothing holding them accountable, they'll just eat a Snickers bar or an ice cream or a donut or some bag of chips or whatever the hell, you know. Because
also, if they have to write it down or, like, you know, put it in the app or whatever, it's kind of like, how often do you want to put a Snicker bar in the app? You know, like it makes you think that you can't just, you know.
I had this lady. She wanted to be my friend who was IFBB coach brought her to me. She was a bikini competitor, and, you know, she wasn't losing weight. And I asked her one day, I'm like, so what did you eat for lunch? She goes, well, I had a Power Crunch bar. I'm a Power Crunch bar. I'm like, that's not on your diet. She goes, yeah, I know, but I was just so busy at work and I didn't have time to eat, so I just ate a Power Crunch bar. And she was not losing weight. And I finally told her, like 2 weeks out from her show, I'm like, you know, I don't think you should compete. You're just not ready. You're not going to be ready. You haven't been staying on your diet. You shouldn't do it.
She ate too many Power Crunch bars.
Yep. And I told her, just don't compete, you know, like, but she was dead set on doing it because she signed up with her girlfriends. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to compete, then just realize you're not going to place well. You're probably going to get dead last, and just know that going into it so you don't get disappointed. And she did compete, and she got dead last. And then she came back and she's like, okay, I'm going on a trip to Mammoth with my husband or boyfriend, whatever it was, for 1 week. I'm like, okay, go for 1 week to your trip to Mammoth and just eat whatever you want for 1 week. And when you come back, we're going to get back on a program and we're going to see if we can get this right. I didn't see her for 3 months. 3 months later, she comes in. She was 50 pounds heavier.
Wow.
She walked in. Her ass freaking this wide. that 1 week turned into like 3 months of just eating shit. She
Jesus.
literally was 50 pounds heavier. I'm like, there's nothing I can do for you. There's nothing I can do for you. You just need to find a different sport. You're not going to be a bikini competitor. You're not cut out for this. I was being honest. I'm like, I was frustrated because it's like, I can't like eat for you. I can't wire your mouth shut and lock you in a room, because that's basically what it would take for her to lose weight.
Well, now you can use Retta.
Yeah, there's that.
Just start suppressing their appetite if they're overeating.
You know, I had this one client. I think I told you about this client. He was my guy that paid me $5,000 a month.
Wow.
Big black guy. When he first came to me, he weighed 330 pounds. He would come to me, and at 330 pounds, we'd get him on a good diet. He'd start training. And within about 6 to 8 months, he was down to a pretty, not competition, but a pretty solid 220. Like 220, he was pretty strong and maybe probably about 15% body fat. And then he would go on a Krispy Kreme binge. He would just go out one night and he'd eat not a box, but 10 boxes of Krispy Kremes. And then I wouldn't, and then after that, I wouldn't see him for like several months. He would just disappear. And then he would come back to me weighing 330 again. And we did this for 10 years.
Wow.
Like,
well,
10 years straight.
bodybuilding is not for everyone, you know? I mean, it really...
No, he wasn't even trying to be bodybuilding. He was just wanted to be in shape. But for 10 years, he'd get him down to pretty good, solid 220. He'd go on one of his Krispy Kreme binges. He'd disappear. He'd come back a few months later. He'd be back at 330 again. And we'd
It's like
start all over.
dieting, no matter
Addiction. That's not just
it requires a decision, you know, a decision to do it, a decision to stick to it, like no matter what, and just put that effort in. You know, it's effort.
A lot of people want it. They just don't want to go through the difficulty of doing it. You know,
Yeah.
I've had friends, and I'm always amazed by the people that do it, because it's such a few amount of people that like just change their life. They're just like one day they're just like they start going to the gym and they're just like 100%. They're on top of it, you know. And then like a year later they're like a different person. You know, they're like totally quit drinking, totally quit. You know, started tracking their macros. They just live like a completely different life than they did.
Yeah. It's possible, but you got to make that decision, and you got to put that effort in every day.
Yeah.
Well, you know that like people some coaches like to put in cheat meals, and you know if you do a cheat meal once a week or whatever, it boosts your metabolism and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the fundamental premise that, you know, physically it works, but a lot of people, you can't do that with it because they can't do a cheat meal.
Go off the rails. They can't stop.
Yeah. Once they have that taste of that food, that cheat meal turns into a cheat week.
Yeah. Usually I'll do something like if mostly I give like a free meal if they just need like, it's like a mental reset. I'm like, go on a date with your girlfriend, get sushi, don't get anything fried. And basically their macros are really not even going to be that much different than if I just gave them 8 ounces of fish and 8 ounces of rice, you know, so they can kind of like eat what they want and not really like, they feel like they're getting this huge reprieve where they're getting like, oh yeah, I'm able to go out and have this, but you know, it's not even like really that crazy. I'll just tell them like, yeah, just get like 3 rolls.
I think it's also a matter of knowing your client. You know, like I have some clients, I can give them free meals, and then when I ask them, what did you have? Oh, I had sushi, or I just the food, you know. Some they just I have some people they don't like to cheat. They like their food, and the most they will have like a protein cookie or some sushi, you know. And then other people I can say, you know, like they need that sometimes, like especially if they're off season and they know that the diet is coming. Yeah. Where I say, well, you know, what do you feel like? And we can agree on something and say, okay, you'll go and have burger or you'll have lasagna or whatever they want. And I'm like, that's fine for that meal.
Yeah. I had a client last year. He was on prep and we were doing good, man. He started at about 230 and he was coming down. He was starting to get lines in his glutes. Pretty good structure. He's a young kid, maybe like 23, 24. And he hits me up. He's like, man, I cheated last night. We were at because he's like does construction stuff. We were at the job site and they had like donuts and pizza. And I'm like, all right, let's like we'll just gonna figure it out. And he sent me his weigh-ins like a day or two later, and he was up like 18 pounds. And I was like, I think you had a little more than a couple of donuts and pizza. And then he just couldn't reel it back in after that. Like I was trying to like, all right, let's get back on this prep. Like this stuff will drop, like get back on it. And he just like, he couldn't stop like going off the off the reservation, like so to speak. He just like couldn't stop himself. And finally I was just like, hey, this prep isn't going to work out. And he kind of just like stopped and like, reset and like, was like, all right. I'm like, you're just not mentally there right now where you can do this.
Well, I told you I had one client that he was getting ready for nationals and we were about 2 or 3 weeks out and I was training him in the gym like 5-6 days a week. So I would see him every day. And one day he comes in and I'm like, what did you eat? He's like, nothing. I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, what'd you eat? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, look at you. He was fucking veins popping out all over, massively pumped, just like from being flat all week. And I'm like, and he was on straight keto because we were like at the end and he had some stubborn
he ate some carbs.
off. And I'm like, okay, don't bullshit me. I'm looking at you. I know you fucking ate some shit last night or today, because your arms are 1.5 inches bigger and your veins are popping out all over the place. You for sure ate some shit.
You can see when the veins are out, because if you're flat as shit, you don't spot any veins.
Yeah. So,
but for me, like I've had like cheat meals on diets. Like for me, like I have a pretty high metabolism. So for me, it was like I could sometimes have a cheat meal and I would drop weight the next day.
Yeah.
Well, basically because a lot of times it can also happen that you get a little bit constipated when you just have your fish and your low carb, that it kind of flushes everything out. That can be one thing. But also I felt like it really sparked my metabolism. So it's like
it can give your thyroid a boost to push in some extra calories, some extra carbohydrates. You can get a thyroid boost from it. Cortisol reduction from the insulin spike will reduce cortisol anyways. So there can be a couple of good reasons, but like, you have to not let people think that that's like a good thing. Like, yeah, he looked crazy and he's like, oh, well, I can do that again and I'll keep looking better and better. But you can do it once in like a 2-week period and it'll look great. But then like if you start doing it every third day, you're just going to start getting fat.
Yeah, for sure. No, there has to always like, also when I use like either high carb meals or cheat meals with clients, there's a reason for it, like be like, they're super flat or maybe like before dieting, that like mentally that they're getting something. I mean, there has to be a reason. You can't
if somebody does like cheat on their diet and they tell me, I'm like, all right, well, tell me exactly what you ate. And I can kind of calculate how much that was, and then send me pictures of like what you're looking like, 12 hours later, once all that food has gotten in, and it's almost like a little mini carb up. And then I can see, like, okay,
I do the
we
same.
can get something out of this. It's not just like all bad, we can maybe get something out of this instead of just being like, well, you just fucked everything.
I mean, you gotta feel, and I mean, I love it when my clients are honest, because I have a so much better working relationship because you know what you're dealing with. Like if you cheat and you can tell and you can see they cheated, like we're flat on your photos like 5 days ago and now you're all of a sudden like full and everything popping and nothing.
Hey, I have a guy who's in prep right now and
like don't insult me, I can tell.
This guy's in prep right now. He came for a check-in on Saturday. I looked at him. He looked a little watery. and he looked heavier than normal. I'm like, get on the scale right now. He was up 8 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, I ran on my retatrutide. I'm like, so what did you eat? No, I just ate the same. No bullshit. You're up 8 pounds over last week. you ate besides running out of the retatrutide, which I don't know why he ran out, because we have a unlimited supply of it. He could got more, but he definitely ate some shit.
Yeah,
I could see it. I could see it on him immediately. We went from dry and flat to
full and wet,
puffy and watery.
Yeah,
and that didn't happen from just drinking water. So back on the retatrutide, and hopefully back on track. I'm checking. I have him checking again this evening. We're going to take another look.
But also, I'm talking about, like, if we say for people out there listening, what should they look for when hiring a coach?
Number
it's
one,
tough. I think word of mouth is probably going to be one of the best. You talk to, like, people that have done it before. Maybe interview a couple different coaches, and not just pick one because they make some good competitors. Like, ask them, like, what's your like method? Like, how high do you take the androgens total? You don't have to ask like what specifics, but you can just be like, what, are you a drug? Do you like to push drugs high? What kind of like prep drugs do you like to use? Like the normal ones, or you like get exotic? How much diuretics do you so you can get kind of an idea of like how, on the edge this person might get with like a person that's just doing a regional show. And then they're going to be like, oh yeah, you're going to use 2 grams of gear and all these orals and 6 milligrams of retatrutide and like all this stuff to win like a regional show.
Well,
so
the number one thing I'm going to look for is knowledge and experience, because if they don't have that, then forget about it, because everything else is bullshit.
Right.
Number
so
two,
how are they
number two,
like
number two,
experience?
Number two, I'm going to look at it. Do they give a shit about their clients? Mm-hmm. And this is one thing I see a lot. If you have a coach, I don't care if they're famous or what they are. If they have a fucking 1,000 clients, you are not going to get very much attention.
You gotta be a number. You gotta be a number in the line.
Yeah, there's no way they have time in the day to pay attention to you. I mean, I can personally take on maybe 30, and I'm talking regular training clients. Now, contest prep, I'm not going to take on more than 5 or 6 at a time, because it's a lot more work.
A lot of like the big coaches, they get so many clients that, I mean, they focus on the important ones, and I think there's a lot of clients that are
they just don't. Yeah, they just get whatever, or they have somebody else doing their routines.
Oh yeah, I've heard many coaches, they hire other people, so you think actually you get, whoever is like the prominent coach, they're getting somebody else. They just don't know it.
Mm-hmm. Somebody else. The problem with that is, like, if you have someone with like a lot of experience, I can look at a situation and quickly assess, what's going on and what to do, because I've just been through this so many times over the years. I've seen this situation play out over and over and over again with different people and myself. And I have like, okay, here's where we're at. This is the fix, or this is what we need to do. If you delegate that to somebody, they're not going to be able to do that, because they don't have the eye and they don't have the knowledge to be like, okay, this is not right. This is what we need to do.
So how can you determine if a coach has knowledge and experience?
I would interview them and, ask a lot of questions. And, if I'm going to interview somebody, I want an explanation for everything that they're telling me. In other words, I don't train any of my clients and tell them just do this because I said so. Everything that they do, I tell them why we're doing it, why it's going to work, and why we're doing all this. Because I want them to understand the process of why we're doing this, not just because I said so. we're doing it this way because this is what happens when you do this based on XYZ thing. Not just because I said so. If someone tells me do this because I said so, like, no, I'm not.
I think that's a huge flag. Like, say if people are working with a coach and they don't get an explanation, that they're just like, well, do it as a because I said so, like, oh, this is just how it is, like that's not an answer. Like, if you can't
No.
argue for your case, like, why are you lowering the carbs, or why are you doing this, why do we need to change the protocol, you need to have an answer. And I think if the coach is just not really answering you, that's a red flag.
Well, I don't even do that. I don't even my clients don't even have to ask those questions, because anytime I do something with them, I explain to them why we're doing it, because I want them to understand there's a reason for why we're doing this. We're not just doing it just because.
Also, in my experience, if clients know the reason why I want them to do a certain thing, they are much more inclined to do it than if I just, because they know the reasoning behind it. That is, oh, it's actually important.
Now, another thing I'm going to look at is, what have they achieved with themselves and their clients? Have they actually done well on whatever they're teaching you? Look, if I want to learn, I don't know, some kind of business thing, and I'm going to go to a successful entrepreneur that did this business in real estate, and they own a lot of property and they've done well. That's a person I'm going to ask. I'm not going to ask the maintenance guy at the apartment complex of how to do the real estate, because they haven't done that thing.
Yeah.
There's a particular coach in my county. This guy, he's competed. First of all, he has no body. He looks like dog shit. I can't imagine why anybody would hire him as a coach. He's never even won a local competition, even though he's competed many times. He has no muscle on him. Yet he has like all kinds of people that he trains and puts on stage, and they all end up looking like shit. And I know, because a lot of these people have come to me after going to him and be like, okay, what do I do? I trained with this guy and I didn't get very good results. So I end up getting his clients after he's done messing them up. If they haven't done something themselves, they don't have a physique, they don't have, any alkaloids, then I don't know. I'm not going to really want to listen to that person.
Right.
I called Chris Duffin when I tore my calves, because I knew that he, number one, was a number one top powerlifter in the world. Number two, I knew that he had a lot of injuries going through it, and he had rehabilitated those injuries. So he's the person I'm going to call, because I knew this, because I followed him, and he's a guy that he'd been through these situations. Maybe not my exact situation, but he had been through serious injuries, rehabbed those injuries. And I called him, and I didn't even know him when I just called him. I'm like, you're the person I'm calling because I'm in this bad situation. And what do I do? He's like, man, I don't even know how you do that kind of an injury, but this is what you're going to do. And what he told me actually was good advice. And when I called him, he gave a shit. I knew that, because while I was in the hospital, he talked to me every day on the phone. Every single day, I talked to him about my situation, and this guy was already a famous coach, and he was willing to take the time to talk to me. He didn't just like, oh, do this and don't call me anymore.
I think that's extremely important. I mean, I have clients who told me, like, I've never had a coach who asked me before how I was feeling. And I was like, I want to know, like, every check-in how you're feeling, because that's a good pinpoint for me. Like, are you over exhausted? Are you maybe like getting too worn down? Like, it's okay, you need to be dragging at some point, but it's like you don't want the athlete to crack, and they cannot do the pressure anymore. You want to keep them afloat all the time. And I like to to get a good feel of like how they're feeling, you know, like that maybe they need
And
that
also they're
feel now, or they need
they could
maybe
be
a
there
couple
could
of,
be following the training program to a T and following the diet to a T, but they're not getting results because something else is going on in their life.
that could
You
also
know,
be like,
they're
I wanna know,
stressed
like,
out from work, they're
do you
not
have
getting sleep.
stress because you're going through a divorce, or you know, is your business going
Mhm.
bad? Like, maybe not that I can do something practically about it, but you know, I can be an ear to listen to. I can maybe give them a different perspective on it. You know, like, I mean, I like to go a little bit psychological into it as well, just because I want to keep them afloat.
Well,
I
at
want,
least you know if something's not going right, why?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not maybe they're following the training, they're following the diet, but they're not sleeping because they're all stressed out
Mm-hmm.
because whatever is going on with them.
True. Yeah. I mean, the more you know, the better coach you can be.
Yeah, I mean, you just you develop a relationship with these people, and everything that they do in their life comes into play into some kind of a way.
A friend of mine is
They're
making
talking
an app where you can rate coaches and like trainers and stuff. It's like a user generated. You put like who it is, and if you have a bad experience with them, you could put that on there. If you have a good experience, you could put that on there. He's like building it right now.
Oh, that's
You
so
know, there's
cool.
been talk about
You know,
that for a lot of
I
years,
think
people
that
building that. And
I
I
that's
think there could be, I think that could be good, but there can also be a negative because let's get real. There's people that post shit that you never met in your life, and they can
Mhm.
post that some negative shit.
trolls.
Look,
Yeah,
I have people.
they might be
I
able
have
to
people.
police that.
I have had people from this podcast or other podcasts I've been on go on my gym fucking account and post negative shit. And I know for a fact they never been in my gym. They never been to my gym. And they're just asshole trolls just being an asshole. I know
Yeah,
this.
I mean, definitely there could be that, but I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, I guess, on some of those
Look,
things.
somebody posted on my gym what is it? Reviews. He treats IFBB pros like shit. What the fuck? I have like 3 IFBB pros at my gym, and I don't think I treat any of them like shit. So who the fuck are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
Luke's one, I don't think I treated you like shit, or the other two. So who? What
Yeah,
is
there's
like? That's
always
just some random bullshit.
talk shit. I mean, we just gotta hope with the app that people are like pretty honest. It's just like just it's a big deal if people they spend a lot of money for a coach, and then you know things that I've heard is like they didn't show up to the show. They couldn't get a hold of them when they were at the show. They didn't get any instructions. I
I
mean,
hear that a lot.
horrible stories like that. Like,
Okay, I'm gonna give you one. You know my ex-girlfriend.
yeah,
Okay, after you trained her, she had another female coach who was a IFBB pro.
mm-hmm.
She just didn't. I don't know why she didn't want me to train her. She wanted to have a different coach. I'm like, okay, whatever. We had fights about that sometimes because, like, I don't understand. I'm right here, and I've prepped you before, and you've
Sometimes
gotten in shape when shows.
when you're in a relationship, like I
Yeah,
know where it works really well, and other people they kind of want to separate business and relationship.
I understand. But anyways, we went to nationals one year, and it just happened to be in the exact same city where she lived. Her coach lived in that city, and this was in it was in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. I went with her because I obviously went with her. Her coach couldn't show up at the show. Not only she couldn't show up, but she didn't even communicate with her at the show. I had to take over. At the last 2 days, I ended up like finishing her prep. because I was there. Her coach was nowhere to be found or seen.
Wow.
She didn't hold her. Her coach told her she gets anxiety going to crowded places. She's an IFBB pro. What you getting? You get anxiety going to crowded places, but
I don't think it has if you hire an online coach that they have a responsibility to go to every person's shows. I don't
think so either. But the lady lived in the city.
If you promise to be there, say I'm going to be there at the show, I'm going to like pump you up, I'm going to give you all the plans, I'm going to do this and that, and then they don't show up, that's a problem. And also not even texting back and they're at a show, that's a problem.
I had a client that was a pure novice, like first time ever, and she was with a coach, and the coach told her to write her peak week protocol. He wanted an extra $500. And I think he was already charging her $500 a month. And she was like he was an okay coach. Like he gave her like, you know, cookie cutter program. She lost the weight and all this stuff, but he wasn't like cutting edge or anything. And then worked out with her and she told her that. She's like, yeah, I don't think I should have to pay an extra $500. I already pay him $500 a month for my prep. She's like, yeah, she wants to actually change coaches, but she's afraid to finish out this prep. And I said, like, look, I'll write her a peak for free, like just because her coach is such a fucking asshole. Already charged her for that. And then I think to go to her show, he wanted to charge her like, and I can understand if you're like, if your client says like, hey, I want you at the show, like, well, okay, but you have to pay for my travel and my stuff to get there because like I wasn't planning on going to this show. So if that's like a thing, then yeah, maybe, but just to like try to bill them an extra for that. So I think you wanted to charge her like another like $1,000 to go to the show. And she was a pure novice. Like literally it was her very first show. And I had to tell her like what class. She wasn't even registered. I told her like, yeah, you need to go into register in pure novice because she didn't even know like the different classes. He wasn't preparing her at all for like any of the stuff, you know, like her posing was bad. My other client was like a friend of hers and she ended up teaching her how to like pose. It was for bikini and she like came a long way, but this guy was literally just like prep coaching her, but like doing just the bare minimum of telling her what to eat and how much cardio to do. And like I trained her for a year after that. And she was just abysmal on how to train. Like literally I taught her how to train because like her form was terrible. Her intensity was terrible. Like literally we worked together for like probably over a year. And she built a substantial amount of muscle because, you know, that's what happens when you do stuff the right way.
Yeah.
I'm going to put somebody on blast right now. I have a client. She's a female. The way she's a member at my gym, and she was posting on Instagram her lifts like all the time, and I could see she's pretty serious about what she was doing, but I saw like her technique was not very good. And by the way, she wants to compete in powerlifting, not bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And I just messaged her because she would train at different times of the day and night, and I wouldn't see her all the time in the gym. I messaged her and I said, I've been watching your posts on Instagram and, I know you're a member at the gym and I think I could help you if you want to. So she messaged me back. I would love that. And I met with her and she has been working the last several months with Mike Israel's coaching program, the RPP strength system, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Anyways, when I asked her about her diet, this lady is, first of all, she's not trying to be a bodybuilder. She wants to power lift, but they had her eating 4,000 calories a day, high carbs. And she's like 30 pounds overweight. And I'm like, why are you eating so much? She goes, well, I'm bulking up to get stronger. And I'm like, no. Like, what do you mean you don't need to get fatter to get stronger? You're like way overweight. Anyways, I sent her to get a DEXA scan. We got her. She was 30% body fat she needed to lose 30 pounds of body fat. And I said, you know, we're gonna redo your whole diet and everything so you can gain muscle, but you need to learn, you don't need to be, you know, 30 pounds overweight. I want her to be like 15% body fat. So I did the calculations, how much is she's gonna need to go from 160 pounds down to 130 pounds. That'll put her at 15% body fat instead of 30% body fat. And I said, this is probably going to take you about 30 weeks, which is like 7 months to do that. We're not trying to do this overnight. There's no competition coming up, but I'm like, you do not need to be eating 4,000 calories, high carbs to get stronger. There's just no reason for that. So I redid her whole thing. And I asked her, I said, you know, when they put this diet together, like, what was the reason for the 4,000 calories? She goes, I don't know. They just did it. They just told me eat this. I don't know what they based it on, but like, there's no reason for someone to get obese just to get stronger. You don't need to do that. And so I completely changed everything, the whole thing, like the training, the diet, everything. So that's an example of, she signed up with this thing online. She's just she's a cog in the wheel, another number. God knows who's programming her. I'm sure it's not Mike Israetel. It's whoever assistant typing out what her stuff. Who knows what their qualifications are, if they even have any. But this is a famous online coach that's putting out bullshit. I'm just calling it like it is.
There's a lot of bullshit coaches. I mean, it's just with social media, I don't know how people then find a coach. I seriously think people should look at what their own credentials are. Are they pros? Have they competed? What have they achieved? You know, like, I mean, and
yeah, but also are they talking to you personally on the phone? Are you able to call that person? Like my clients, they can call, text me whatever they want. Anytime. I have people, they just randomly call and text me. If I don't hear from them, I call and text them like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a few days. How is things going?
Yeah.
You know, because if I don't hear from them, I feel like something might be wrong.
I've had coaches where it was like strictly email. You could not get in touch with them, you know, any other way.
Nah, if I'm taking somebody's money and they can't call me, that's bullshit.
If
I'm going to hire someone to train me.
After 6 p.m., I couldn't reach them. And it didn't matter if I was at the Olympia. If it was 6 p.m., he went to bed. And there was no more communication. Yeah, I've had that happen. So if anything happened, you know, even Olympia, I had to solve it myself because he went to bed.
Jeez.
So at being at that level, why would you put up with that?
Well, he did get fired eventually.
I mean, if I can't call someone up and say, you know, I have something going on, then I don't want to work with that person.
Oh, I'm obviously genetically gifted. So the first show we worked together, I won it. The next show was the Rising Phoenix. I also won it. But apparently it was a bit on luck because the next show I looked like shit. And he apologized. I was like massively overcarved and looked really like some kind of fridge that rolled in on the stage. Loaded.
Yeah.
Apologized and said, listen, I'm going to give you a year for free. I'm going to correct it. So I gave him another chance. And then the next show, I again looked like shit. Instead of being overcarved, I was like, that was the one that started me and said, no, don't eat anything the day before the show. He was afraid I was going to spill like the last show. So he was like,
went the other way.
He panicked. I think you're spilling. So don't eat anything. If you're hungry, you can eat a little peanut butter. But today I want you fasting all day. And the next day I look flat as shit, you know, with a little diuretic on top. I look terrible. So then, you know, I was like 3 weeks from the Olympia and I had to change the coach.
Yeah.
Horrible, because I just did the Rising Phoenix, looked like shit. And I was just like, fuck, like I cannot, like he just could not peak me. Like, and I don't understand how he could peak me the first year. And
Mhm.
like,
Well, some athletes, you don't really have to peak them because, like you said, you're so genetically gifted. It's like anything you did, it probably would be fine as long as you didn't do something like crazy, like overcarb them or overstarve them.
that was the issue. I actually talked to him later on and contemplating him hiring him back after I had another disaster coach. And I said, listen, we had such a good working relationship the first year. I just think he got anxiety. Like,
Mm.
like I went to the top right away. And then it was like I think the second year he wanted to do it better and I should be bigger and I should be even more. And he overdid it. And then he got scared the next time when I started filling out and he just decreased the carbs maybe a tiny bit, And instead he swooped all the carbs away and gave me some diuretics because he was afraid I was going to blow up.
That's one thing about a coach is that's one reason. That's one of the advantages of having a coach versus doing it yourself is because at the very end, when you're like dieting so hard and stressing out, you don't want to be panicking and doing wrong things. And the coach should be a calm person who's looking at things analytically and not freaking out over things. And the other thing is,
coach, because honestly, I can coach myself, but I do get anxiety at the end because I want to win and I want to do the right thing, and I start questioning myself because I have emotions involved.
So when you start doing something drastic,
have emotions involved, like I just look at the facts, but with myself, I want to win so bad. I have emotions involved, like, oh, what if I overdo the carbs? It's not going to be bad. Or what if I don't? What if I end up flat? And I start questioning myself, and I don't want to get into that. That's why I hire a coach for. It's basically I just need the peak, the last part,
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's a lot of that's very common with a lot of athletes. That it's just it's hard at the end because it's like it's now it counts. Like you make a mistake and you can fucking blow the whole year you worked hard for.
Yeah.
Now another thing is, I think a coach needs to be a coach, not a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And what that means is, like, I'm brutally honest with people. Like, I will tell somebody, you look like shit.
Yeah.
Straight out. Like, you're not ready. This needs to happen. You're overweight. You're not whatever it is I see, I just tell them like it is.
I've been training with some friends, and one of them is getting ready for a show. I think he's like 10 days out, something like that. And we posed a couple weeks ago, and he was like doing his poses, and I was just honest. Like I was like, "Oh, that pose doesn't look aesthetic on you. Like, don't do that one, this or that." And then my other friend, like the next day, he was like, "Bro, you were so brutal. Like you just like told him like exactly." I was like, "Well, I mean, I would rather somebody told me like if I'm going the wrong way, I don't think I should try to fix something that's not fixable. Like it just didn't look good on him. He was just it's not built for his structure, the pose." So he was like, "Yeah, I guess," but he was like surprised that I was so like blunt about what was good or bad.
I get all the respect in the world. Like athlete, I think most people are not coming for a cheerleader. I mean, I think people, they really want you to be honest with them and say, "Hey, that's
but the problem is you have all these people on their Instagram account and their friends, and no matter what they look like, they're like, "Oh, you're awesome. You're going to win. Yeah. You look great," because they don't know the people that are telling them. First of all, they don't know anything.
Mm-hmm. They do look great for those people. They look the best they've ever looked.
Great.
Yeah.
Experience with that, whereas like I've had athletes that were very disappointed after because they thought they were going to win. Mm-hmm. Thought they were at least going to be top 3 because they had everybody on Instagram cheer them on. They had all their friends. Everybody at the gym was like, "Oh, of course you got to win. You got to be the great." There's a fine line with like being positive and just being over the top. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't I think
Being confident and being over the top.
Yeah, it's also bad. I've also had the other thing, opposite happen that when you're like sensitive the last few months, I or weeks, I've even had that happen to me where somebody came 2 weeks prior and be like saying, "So, oh, you're not competing, are you? Oh, yeah, I'm actually doing the Olympia. Oh, you're doing the Olympia?" And you feel really bad.
Subconscious,
You're like,
yeah.
shit, do I look that much like shit? And you can be really sensitive at the last part. And
Yeah.
you
Well, it is kind of a mind fuck
think
because
about what they're saying,
it is kind of a mind fuck because 3 weeks out, you should look really flat and you shouldn't look
And
like
that's
full and crazy.
like,
So
it was probably 3 weeks out at my last Olympia. I switched to Bev's gym and I just flown like a million miles and I was flat and did 2 hour cardio a day and was like really the fucking skin was chewing gum.
yeah.
And then you get somebody who comes up and say, "Oh, you're not competing, are you?" Yeah, I'm competing. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're doing the Olympia? Yeah. I was so fucking offended,
Yeah.
And I've had athletes also that gotten bad comments. So I just think people, if they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Here's kind of another thing on like the client side is like if you hire a coach and he sends you a program and then you go like, hey, I call them ask holes. Hey, we look at my program. My coach did me do this. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like, if you had enough confidence to hire this coach, you kind of need to like, you kind of need to follow what they're giving you and not like just try to, I don't know, undermine it. Because what if you showed something to me and I do something completely different and I'm like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have you do this or that, and then now you're second guessing your prep. So.
And also,
Hey,
getting in shape, there's like a million ways to get in
Yeah.
shape.
Yeah. I mean, you might be your coach might be doing something specific for like that reason. That's why they did that. They have you've been coached by them before, and you have a problem with estrogen, or you have a problem with being watery, and I don't know that. Like, I'm just coaching you like I would coach a generic person, So I don't know what your shit is.
There's a guy who's a member at my gym. He's getting ready to compete next week. He starts sending me progress pictures and telling me his weights and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then asking me, how he looks. Do I think his weight's good? Do I think he needs to gain weight, lose weight? And I'm like, I'm not your coach. You have a coach that you hired and paid.
Yeah.
I have not worked with you. I don't know what you've been eating or not eating. I don't know what you've been doing. And now why are you asking me at the last minute? Like, obviously he's second guessing his coach, but I'm not going to put input onto this. I'm like, you're not my client. First of all, I don't know what drugs he's taken. I don't know what food he's eating. I don't know what he's done his whole prep. I don't know anything. Yeah. Yet he's sending me progress pictures and his weights and stuff. Like I'm supposed to analyze it and start giving him answers.
Yeah.
And I told him, I'm like,
I mean, if someone's looking good, I just tell them, I think you're right on track. Just keep coasting in the way that what you're doing,
Yeah, but he was asking me very specific questions. Like, I mean, literally, he was sending me these every day. And first of all, it's like, okay, if you want me to do all this, then you need to hire me, not the other guy.
Yeah. You need to shut that.
Yeah. You hired somebody who, for whatever reason, you hired that person. So you need to be talking to that person.
Coach, you gotta trust your coach, no matter if they're right or wrong. You gotta trust your coach, and if you think they're not a good coach for you, switch. I mean, I did it 3 weeks out of Olympia one time because I was just like, this is like, what was the third time I was mispeaked? I'm like, I'm not gambling with this anymore.
Yeah.
I gambled to switch to somebody new, but I didn't switch before. After we had a thorough conversation, what do you want to do? What is this? What do you want? Questioning him. And he wasn't going to do shit. He was like, well, you're in shape already. We're just going to pull a little bit back on your cardio because of cortisol. And we're not really going to change a whole lot. Okay. Yeah. That fits in my program. you know. So I mean, I think you cannot have a coach and not trust your coach, and once you start mistrusting your coach, you need.
Yeah. If you don't trust them, one, you should just talk about it. Say like, "Hey, what happened here?" And you're like, "You know what? I did fuck up. I didn't know your genetics. I coached you like maybe I should have coached someone else." And if they're honest about it, then they can be like, "We can fix this. I made notes. We're not going to do that again." And like you said, if they do the same thing again or like something bizarre again, different, like, man, maybe the pressure is just too much for you to coach somebody at my level.
Yeah.
You know?
And also, I mean, I agree on like talking about things. It is a relationship, and I'm also like, of all your clients, you don't honestly, you don't get every peak 100% right. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes
you never going to get every peak, right? I mean,
no, you're never
you're
gonna.
giving it your best shot, especially on a first time
Yeah,
client, like a first time prep. Like you're shooting in the dark on, you have a good general idea of what's going to be the right way to go, but like how genetics are so variable. Like you could have somebody that fills out well and doesn't get watery, and someone that gets feed them 25 grams of carbs and they fucking just balloon out,
yeah,
So and you're not going to know that unless you just prep them like you would any other person. But then a good coach is going to take that knowledge and say,
yeah,
okay, we can do better on the
yeah.
next one. We can do better on the next one. We
Better,
can do better on the next one.
you're gonna get better every single
And we
time.
can see that with like the pro level too. We can see that with the pro level too, because like Stefan and Martin are doing that. Like they prepped shows and he was watery, and they prepped
Yeah.
shows and he was great. And I see
Yeah.
from the interviews that Martin does, he's like, yeah, we're really figuring it out. And that's good that he's sticking with Stefan, because like now they're taking this previous knowledge and they're going into the last shows that he won and the Arnold right now and stuff. So it can be very powerful if your coach
Yeah.
is like
Also,
a good
I
coach.
and just changing like that, like you gotta. I mean, like I said, with this coach I was working with, just because he fucked up one time, I wasn't just throwing him off the boat.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. We had a good talk. He was like, we can do better. Then
Which
was
personally, if I was with a coach and we did a bad show, I would honestly want to do like another show right away because I'm in shape. I don't have to risk a whole nother prep.
Yeah.
Because pick another show 3 weeks, 4 weeks out and say like, all right, let's do this again. And if they fuck me again, then I'm gonna be like, all right, you just aren't the right coach for me, because they've had done preps that were good before. Then you kind of go, it's on you as much as it is on them. So if you give them a second shot, I mean, anyone can make a mistake, but if you give them a second shot and it's kind of, the same issue again, then be like, all right, maybe you just aren't like the right coach for me.
Yeah.
When I was 16, I had my first coach was Mike Sable, was Mr. Universe. And he had me doing like no salt and all this a lot of cardio and different things.
Yeah.
And I did get in condition and I did win my first show because I was conditioned, even though I was flat. And I mean, what he did worked for the time that we were at that time, for what they wanted and for the level of, this is the 80s.
Well, I think also they did all that time. They thought.
Yeah, that's all we knew. So this is what we did. But I remember later, as I kept competing, I mean, we're talking 15, 20 years later, I was doing my own preps for a while. And I had one year where I looked like 3 different people at 3 different shows. The first show, I was like really freaking flat, went all the way down to light heavyweight. I was like weight at 196, flat, stringy, and just didn't look good. And I didn't do well. That was at the Cal. Then I go to nationals and I come in at 215, and I was better, but not 100%. I was like better, but I still wasn't 100% there. And then I finally did the last show of the year, which is the Excalibur, and I weighed 225, totally shredded, full as a house, and that was like my best look. And I remember calling him after the show, and I'm like, dude, I was so excited, like I figured it out. I nailed the peak. I know the formula, and I got it right, and everything went and he did not give a shit. He could care. He's like, why? I remember it was like, why are you calling me? Like, he did not give a shit, what I did or anything, which I don't care that, but I've taken that stuff that I learned and I've been able to apply it. And I would say with confidence that I'm pretty much able to peak almost everybody I've peaked. I've been able to peak them.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had one training client that I couldn't peak them, aside from one guy that just kept cheating on his diet, or that bikini lady that kept cheating on their diet.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to like the water manipulation, the carbs and all that, I pretty much figured that part out. But it took me a long time. I mean, years and years of competing and trial and error and messing with diuretics and different amounts of diuretics and less diuretics and more diuretics and different fluid and more carbs or less carbs. But I've pretty much figured it out. And one thing I will say is there is no peak week program. There is no such thing. If someone tells you this is the program for peak week, you're going to eat this food, take this amount of water, do this X, Y, Z, they're full of shit.
Yeah.
Because you need to adjust day by day, hour by hour into the show based on how the body is responding to whatever it is that you're doing. And that's the way I've been able to peak people is
like
I feed them a little bit, or I pull back the water, or I add some, and I have a general idea of what I'm going to do, but I will scrap that whole thing if it's not working. Like if I'm peaking somebody and like it's not working, I'm going to switch up what we're doing in some kind of a way. If I had to add more fluid, pull fluid back, whatever, but I'm basing it on what I see. And especially like the last 2 days of the show, I am looking at that person every 2 to 3 hours. And based on what I see from what we did 2 to 3 hours earlier, I'm going to decide what we're going to do in the next 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to eat more? We're going to eat the same? Are we going to cut it back? Are we going to drink some more? And I can see how the body is responding to what we're doing, if we're on track to get where we want or if not. And that's just experience. It's just experience. I've done it on myself so many times and on other people. You have to have an eye for that. You have to be able to look at somebody and say, okay, this person, they're filling out, they're flat, they're holding water, they're whatever the situation is, and just know what adjustments to make.
Yeah.
And that's
like
it. That is the formula.
They're paying for knowledge. That's your knowledge. It's not like you cannot have a set plan. You can have a plan, but that plan is like subject to change.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, I got to get my next meal in.
Yeah.
So
do we have any questions today?
We didn't really get any, so we're good today.
Okay.
Nope. All right. So don't forget, like, subscribe. If you have questions or if you have future topics you want us to cover, go ahead and put those in the comments. And also, you can Instagram us or reach us through our social medias. And I think that's a wrap.
Yep. Later, guys.
Anything you guys want to add?
Peace.
Bye.
See ya.
I believe that the fires were cast upon, on the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling where our temples pray as